Hey, and welcome back to another video. Now, today we have an exciting update to everything that's going on with silver meshing. Now, this is kind of a post-mortem to the tests that CAG have been running throughout this year. Okay, so I wanted to talk about that today. I also wanted to go over some potential issues with the expanding of the game. But let's get right into this document here. I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time. Okay, so back in March 24, following silver meshing test A, we confirmed a critical design flaw in the network message queue, NMQ, used by the game servers and hybrids, the different services. The NMQ is responsible for transmitting data over UDP sockets for both reliable and unreliable, eventually consistent traffic, as well as ensuring the security of this data transmission. Okay, so this is essentially a programming language that helps the data packets over the network so everything gets updated. A lot of people have been attributing this system to the large amount of lag that we have been experiencing in the earlier tests. All game data, including serialized variables, entity properties, and remote method calls, pass through this message queue. Again, these are more services that CAG uses on the back end to make sure that the game is running efficiently. Okay. The identified flaw caused issues when processing large amounts of binds and messages, leading to performance problems, causing large bottlenecks in the queue. This usage of memory bandwidth was also problematic. To address this, the team went into focused development mode to create a replacement, the replication message queue. So CAG split the replication layer from a lot of the other services early on this year and the last year, I believe. And that was huge because what that essentially means is we're not on servers anymore, but we're on shards. Now, the shards that we're playing on right now only have one server to one shard. What they want to move to is multiple servers and one shard. So this replication layer is the relevant data that you need to play the game. This is what updates everything that you're seeing around you. And this is talking to the other services. And so what has been happening is that this has not been updating fast enough for players to play the game in a realistic way. So they need to come up with a new messaging system so the replication layer can talk to the other services a lot faster. The RMQ is designed to significantly improve bandwidth efficiency and maintain security for game servers, clients, and replicants. Most importantly, it aims to prevent major networking bottlenecks that players would typically experience as prolonged interaction delays affecting multiple users simultaneously. As previously shared, we introduced the first version of RMQ in early 3.24 releases as a canary on selected shards. It's now fully deployed across 3.24.1 shards. We're closely monitoring RMQ performance in relation to shard age, as we observed in 3.23.1 that as shards age, the number of binds and messages increase significantly. So yeah, this is another issue that has kind of been we've been seeing with these playtests is early on before everyone really gets in, it's kind of okay. And then as it starts to fill up, as players start to do things, it kind of degrades a little bit. But a large issue with the testing that's been done is that a lot of people have been spawning in relatively at the same time because CIG is turning on and off these tests in a specific way. It's not like it's really left up for a prolonged period of time and people can hop in whenever they want as the live version is. So a lot of you guys will know that sometimes we get a PTU build that feels really good, and then when we go live, even more things break. So even if CAG gets this in a perfectly smooth experience, that still doesn't mean that it's going to be perfectly smooth when it goes to live. So I really do hope we see a lot more testing. So now that all of that has been said, let's get into the tests. With ARMQ in place, along with other hybrid improvements, we have resumed silver meshing tests using the current patch code base at 324. Our test objectives are to identify areas needing optimization to achieve low latency replication at scale with the actual game and real players. Okay, again, they have this kind of tech where they can essentially spawn a bunch of bots. CIG talked about that a long time ago on Inside Star Citizen, but that is very different than real players doing real things. Okay, pinpoint game features that require adjustments for high player counts, pinpoint game environments that need adjustments for higher player counts, uncover bugs related to server transition, server recovery, and other quirks introduced by the mesh setup, confirm changes and improve the game experience at higher play counts for a networking point of view. So there's some interesting points here that they are trying to achieve, which again makes sense for what we need for 4.0. Okay, identify areas needing optimization. Again, this is kind of boilerplate. We know that optimization, a lot of it needs to happen with ARMQ because it's basically new tech. Okay, new tech to the game. Pinpoint game features that require adjustment for high player counts. A lot of this is going to be things like the mission system, which we really didn't test. So this is kind of interesting that they have this as an objective because we're not able to test the missions with silver meshing, which I think is something that needs to be done critically before 4.0. Until we can see the mission system and other services, backend services working efficiently with silver meshing, 4.0 is not around the corner, in my personal opinion. Pinpoint game environments that need adjustments for higher play counts. This is another very interesting thing that you really can't test, but you can see some of the issues that arise. And again, as I said a little bit earlier, a lot of players were spawning in the same time. So what ends up happening is that on these larger servers, people were essentially getting stuck in their rooms on spawning because basically there just wasn't enough rooms in the habs to spawn all the players. Again, a lot of the environments in the PU are, kind of designed around 100 player cap. To then push that to 1,000, CAG might have to drop more habs in landing zones, like more hab buildings or whatnot, other places where players can spawn to support that kind of player count. So I really don't expect CIG to try to target 1,000 players with 4.0. Realistically, it would have to be a lower number until they rework the environment to enable that. Okay. Uncover bugs related to server transition, server recovery, and other quirks. Again, if there is any hangups like, getting stuck in your room on spawning, that is a bug related to server transition stuff. Now, what people have actually been saying is that before, when you would cross the server boundary, it would actually pull you out of quantum. It doesn't do that anymore. People have been able to quantum directly to planets across that silver borderline. That is a very good new improvement because then you see less seams in the game world and it becomes more seamless. So they are slowly working out a lot of different things that you might not assume would come with silver meshing. And then confirm changes to improve the game experience. Again, this is really taking a lot of player feedback and from the network point of view. Okay, they're aiming for rapid iteration cycle to test our corrections and optimizations. It's showing progress at each step without interference from other changes to the game. Our goal is to conduct weekly tests until it's time to rejoin the main development branch for the 4.0 PT waves. This is another big thing. So just about every week, they're going to want to run tests, okay? CitizenCon is right around the corner. Some people were hoping that 4.0 would come at around that time. In my opinion, there's absolutely no way that 4.0 is going to come out around CitizenCon. That's too early. Best case scenario, just as IAE ends before the end of the year, we get PTU. Okay. And that these tests are able to give them the information that they need to iterate quickly. Because at the end of the day, all of this stuff, everything that they're going to have to do is basically going to have to be done from scratch. So they're building this for the first time, and things may break. And when that happens, you need to give yourself time to fix some of those things. Again, we're kind of talking best case scenario here. If they're doing these weekly tests and they hit a hard roadblock or wall, there's kind of no time budget in place right now to say, okay, we have a month to work out this problem. We have a week to work out this problem. You know what I mean? So it's they're working on this tech at the same time as they're trying to bring out a patch. That is, I don't know how they're doing it. CIG devs are wizards, in my personal opinion. I would not want to be under that type of stress. Okay, we'll only proceed to a tech preview test in each week if we have significant changes with improvements and validation for you to play. Okay, that's also good. Again, if you guys have the time and the ability to jump into these tests, please do. CIG really does need all of the information that they can gather and give your feedback about your experience in these tests. Your honest feedback, it's invaluable to the dev team right now. Our tests should mostly follow a given pattern. First, start with a single server set up to validate no new problems. Expand to a mid-sized configuration, aka 3 servers, 500 players. Expand to a larger size configuration, aka 6 servers, 1,000 players. Reel back to a comfortable player cap and server amount based on performance. To leave the test open for a few hours for more players to capture data. Okay, and this is what we have been seeing of the recent tests lately. This is very good. And I think a reason why this makes a lot of sense, and again, they kind of broke it down for us perfectly here. Their goal, in my opinion, is not just to say, okay, we're going to release 4.0 with 1,000 players. I don't think that's the intention at all. What they want to do is capture data so they can see how this system scales, because they don't want to build systems right now that they're just going to have to redo in a couple of months with 4.0.1 or whatever. Okay, in these tests, missions will not be available. Again, that's another interesting roadblocker, but basically what they said is that they want to do this part first and then bring it over to the 4.0 main game branch. So we're not really going to be able to test missions in these server meshing tests until probably 4.0 PTU, which is very interesting. I think that they should bring the missions system rework down into the 324.2 whatever branch so they can test it with these tests before plugging it back into the main game dev branch for 4.0 PTU. Whether they're going to do that or not, I don't know. Right now, again, I think the intention is that they want to test out the mission system first and then do it for 4.0. So that's basically what they're saying here. Being refactored to be server meshing compatible in 4.0. Several game systems like social are also being adjusted for server meshing. But these changes are not in the technical preview builds, which we aim to isolate for any ongoing development. Bar networking code. The tests of these systems will resume when 4.0 hits PTU. Again, when 4.0 hits PTU, they're going to do more of these tests. So we're getting a block of these tests before 4.0 PTU, and when 4.0 PTU comes, we'll get another block of these tests so that they can test server meshing with the 4.0 game dev branch. You know, it's, again, I do not envy these devs. They are wizards. This is a gargantuan task ahead of them. Okay, so this is again kind of the postmortem on the test that we've been seeing. Meshing test B was conducted on September 12th and was the first of the RMQ tests. The results were disappointing and unexpected. Okay, so I think that a lot of people kind of misconstrued what's being said here. And I think it's obvious that CIG would be disappointed, not because it didn't do what they wanted it to do, but probably more likely they had the intentions that it would work, so they would be in a different place development wise in terms of scheduling. Because as CIG said at CitizenCon and earlier this year, they had intended 4.0 to go to PTU this summer. Okay, so again, things had apparently happened that kind of pushed them back, and their solutions to those issues weren't as successful as they hoped it would be. So not that this technology disappointed them, but kind of the situation. Okay, the results were disappointing and unexpected, but previously identified bottleneck identified test A was confirmed fixed. So again, this is the key thing here. The bottleneck from test A, which happened early in the year, like March, where it was totally unplayable, that was confirmed fixed by RMQ. So RMQ is not disappointing. That situation was disappointing, where they essentially found that the RMQ was not the only problem. Okay, observations, zoning in and out times were problematic. And again, a lot of you know what happened with B. Meshing test C was conducted on September 19 and included performance optimizations. Test C was the first to use a build with the legacy NMQ system stripped out. This was an important step as RMQ has been designed for greater parallelism, but these optimizations could not be unlocked while we still needed to support NMQ. Test C included the first round of these planned optimizations and significantly improved our ability to scale before the interaction delay grows and the game becomes unplayable. Again, these interaction delays, that is really what they're trying to optimize here with this. The test also allowed us to start seeing more gameplay related issues as players spread around the game world and were able to experience a meshed universe. The test was a big step forward. We were able to successfully identify additional issues present, but walked away from this playtest feeling optimistic. And then they had the observations here. I'm not going to go too much onto that. Onward. This is important. Final piece of this postmortem. While these early results are promising steps forward, we're aware that challenges remain. We're committed to tackling each hurdle through rapid iteration, always aiming to improve our gaming experience. To those of you who participate in these tests, your dedication is truly inspiring. Taking time out of your day to come and try out new features and tech, much respect. It's a pleasure and privilege to progress on this technology together. Your insights and patience are invaluable as we transform our game to be the MMO we want it to be. And there it is, you guys. At the end of the day, Star Citizen is aiming to be an MMO. So this technology that they're working on right now, again, other games have different solutions. We're not worried about other games, okay? We're worried about Star Citizen. We want what this game is doing for the gameplay to work best. And so it kind of brings us to, again, talking a little bit, about Morphologist's video, where he kind of talked about some potential, game world design issues that may arise, with this tech and those higher player counts that CIG want to get to. I think that there are some exciting things that this technology will bring about. At the end of the day, we have larger ships coming out like the Polaris, um, which is that military capital ships, and we can have these larger fleet battles. Different events like Xenothreat and Blockade Runner can be a lot more exciting and engaging. But design changes will need to happen. Obviously, we've kind of seen this with the HABs. And as I said earlier in the video, uh, there aren't enough rooms in a lot of these HAB buildings, apartments, whatever you want to call them, for all the players to spawn, for 1,000 players to spawn. You think about it, okay? Each floor of one of these HABs has 5 rooms on it. There's 10 floors. There's 50 people to a landing zone. There's 4 landing zones. You get 200 people max that can load in at the same time. If the cap is 1,000 or any more of that, well, then people will get stuck in HABs. That's just quick napkin math. That's nothing crazy. So they will more than likely have to work on that logging flow. Now, CIG has said that they want to enable us to be able to log at different locations in the game. So that will also need to change the login flow from where right now you have your home location set to one of these landing zones, because that is where your whole inventory is. It is difficult to make a location like Grimhex, a Lagrange point, or an LEO station as your home location, because a lot of people have ground vehicles and might not be able to spawn them at these locations efficiently. To have your entire inventory at a location like this is not ideal. So realistically, CIG will have to do something very similar to what they did with personal hangars, with personal HABs. So giving us the ability to kind of overlay the spawning experience, or put different HABs in different buildings and kind of connect up the tram system. There are a lot of buildings in these cities, in these landing zones, and CIG can make these instance buildings. And they've talked about this in previous CitizenCon, previous videos. And that is the same technology that they're using with the hangars, the personal hangars. So if they can do it with the personal hangars, they'll be able to do it with personal HABs and expand the login flow to enable us to log in different places. Again, they want us to be able to log from our hangar and our HABs. But again, your personal inventory is for, at the moment, people have large personal inventories. This will need to be at a dedicated landing zone. Now, they're also talking about homesteads. So we might see some of this at CitizenCon. But again, at the end of the day, you're not realistically going to be able to have your entire personal inventory at these homesteads. Realistically, these homesteads might be an alternative logging location. Right now, they haven't really shown anything concerning having a hangar at these locations where you can call up all of your ships. So I really think that these locations are more like camping sites than anything else. But that, again, everything that they might show us is a step forward in the right direction. So I'm not too put down by that. And then, of course, spaceports. Spaceports right now, a lot of them have around 20 hangars or so. Again, with 1,000 players, the ATC could easily get overloaded. And I've said this, I made a whole video about the Lawville rework, about having kind of satellite spaceports where, at the outskirts people could land. That would also kind of help with performance as well. Because Lawville is a very large city, and they have all of these industrial areas on the outskirts that are kind of being underutilized. Their intention was to have gameplay at those locations, but again, landing zones are very unoptimized, so having gameplay at these locations is still very difficult without this instance technology. So again, my initial suggestion was to kind of move some hangars to kind of satellite stations around landing zones on the outskirts, and then just kind of have more trams or expand the transit system to kind of take people back to the main spaceport or the main location. So I think trams realistically are going to have to get expanded. They're working on updating the transit system to work with server meshing. And that's kind of in the event that, landing zones need multiple servers because there are so many people at them. And that brings us kind of to the next hurdle, is events. Now, if you have something like CitizenCon, that has an in-game component where players can go, and also Fleet Week, Invictus, where people can go and they can look at the ships in game. And typically the performance is pretty bad, so these don't get a huge amount of foot traffic, but the goal is to at some point get the performance at these locations much better, so we can have hundreds of people walking around looking at ships. So I think that we're ways to go, and I think I would be personally very happy if we got Pyro and the player count was like 350 or something like that. I have absolutely no problem with that. When we started this thing, when CIG started talking about 4.0, I never in a million years imagined that we would get 1,000 players with 4.0. So the fact that they even tested this is exciting in my opinion, because it means that they want this technology to scale a lot sooner than we originally predicted. And I think that, and again, that might seem like a crazy thing to say because this game's been in development for 12 years, but realistically, I think that CIG had that turning point in 2019, 2020, when the funding changed, when the player base changed, during lockdown, when everyone started playing the game a lot more and investing more time in it. I think that really lit a fire under CIG and kind of said, no, we need to stop and we need to actually address what we need to do to deliver this thing finally. And I give a lot of credit to the team and the planning that they're doing, getting Turbulent into the fold, into the main company. Those guys have been doing a lot of really good work, and all of these tests is evidence of that was a good decision to bring those guys on board fully. So I want to hear what you guys think about all of this stuff. I think it is promising, and fingers crossed that everything works out for CAG. But I don't have any particular expectations at this point. I just want to continue testing and seeing that progress happen, so the game could go in the direction that we all want it to go. But really, I do not care about dates whatsoever. I do not care about the player count going to 1,000 tomorrow. I realistically just want a good, playable, stable experience. I know many of you guys out there watching this video want the same, and I think CIG is finally taking the steps to make that happen. So I'm happy to see it, and I'm happy that they're doing this stuff like this with the postmortem. So that's gonna be it for me here today, you guys. Thank you for spending your time with me again. I know this was a little bit of a longer video. I've been doing these longer videos now. There's just a lot to talk about. So with all of that said, like I always say at the end of these videos, you guys like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Salute.